Hi everyone, I'm trading the ES and the NQ. We're going to start off on the ES here. So this is our overnight high, this is our overnight low down here, these are our key levels. I started trading at 8 Central Time, which is this area right here, just before we broke out there. And so starting off, we have this uptrend, break, and a push to a new high. So this uptrend is considered played out at this point. And very commonly, after a trend plays out, you get a reversal. So one thing that we could get after this at this point is a failed second entry pushing back below. So a push lower, couple legs back, forming a reversal pattern, a failed second entry, but it just doesn't happen. It ends up continuing on higher, holding above the EMA. Again, I started trading right around this area here, and then we start pushing up. There's really no clear entries on the way up here, especially after we bounce off of the overnight high again. You want to see 2 attempts to reverse before going long again, because this is a key level here. So if it bounces off of this key level, the overnight high, you need to see 2 attempts, because one attempt is not enough. The market moves in pairs of twos. Second entries form all over the chart, and that's because of them repelling off of strong key levels or getting attracted to strong key levels. Because these, when price reaches them, you can expect price to push away, but you can also expect price to attract to them. So like at this point here, notice that we formed the overnight high here when we push lower here. That's our current high swing for the overnight session. And then after we get this push back up and then a break, this break, and then another push down, so now you have 2 attempts down, that's when you get 2 legs back up, perfectly retesting that level again before attempting to push off. So even though it pushes on through here, doesn't mean you want to do that. Doesn't mean you want to take a long there next time just because you get a green bar holding on the EMA. It's just a first entry. So anyway, we continue on higher here. We break out of the overnight high. Now, when you break out, you want to see 2 attempts to fade before buying the breakout. Just because you get a green bar pushing out doesn't mean that you want to immediately buy, because price is likely to fade back in. When you break out of an overnight level or a range level, you can expect price to attempt to fade. And so we have to wait for 2 attempts. Starting from here, we have our first attempt, second attempt, measured move is met. This trend line is holding right here, right off the overnight high with a green bar. It didn't close above the EMA, but considering it's holding off this trend, we have this bigger measured move in play still. I thought this looked like a great looking trade. So we push on up here, we go into this little range right here, we start going sideways. And so, on this way up here, there's really no other good longs. It just chops to the side until it reaches the trend line and pushes up. And you obviously don't want to enter long directly into that resistance right there, so really nothing. We just continue on up, and then as soon as this measured move is met perfectly to the tick, price reverses on down. And so now this uptrend has a break. We can expect price to attempt to reverse again because this measured move is met, but we still have to consider this uptrend is clearly in play. It held very well. It has a break. There's a chance that price could attempt to make a new high before the reversal. And so what we have here is after the break, we have first attempt higher and then the second attempt higher. Now the second attempt is not as big as that first attempt, but you can still tell it's part of this. They're still connected as 2 legs there. You have the first attempt, the second attempt. It's clear to see on the other side of the count it's a failed second entry. Now usually with a trend playing out, I'd like the second attempt to be more close to the size of that first leg, but considering the measured move was just met and we had a very bearish reaction to it, I thought it's perfectly fine, because again, it's not like it's just the trend trying to play out here. You're at an already very common reversal area. The measured move is met. You can expect price to attempt to fade, and you still have this down measured move in play. Then we get a nice bearish reaction to the failed second entry. So again, starting from here, we have first entry long, second entry long, failure, very bearish reaction. Great looking trade to ride to the measured move. So we continue on down. We push through the measured move. We retest the overnight high here. Now, so we have 2 legs down at this point, retesting. This is a great area to look for a long. Now, I don't like exactly going long just because we get this bar right here. We did push through that measured move level. It could hold off of it again, but the main concern is, because that's not the primary concern. The main concern is that we just reversed off this major measured move, perfect reversal. And so considering that, I would want to wait for more confirmation, push off of the overnight high, and then make a failed second entry pushing back up. Because, again, at a common reversal area like this, even though you get a good looking bullish bar holding off this key level here, you do have a lot of bearish momentum pushing off of this reversal, so you just want to wait for confirmation, push above the EMA, couple legs back, making a failed second entry, holding above, but we just don't get that here. It ends up pushing up, finding some resistance at the EMA, and then pushing back down with another leg. And so we push back in, we fade back into the overnight high level, and then price immediately starts getting choppy, starts trying to break back out, and then it forms this reversal pattern. Starting from this low here, we have first entry short, second entry short, failure. It was getting pretty choppy there. It's like barely not too choppy because you are still clearly holding above. You still have very clear legs right here. You can still tell it's a failed second entry. But it was starting to get a little bit choppy there, but not too much to where you can't take it. It is bullish hold off the overnight high. It was kind of chopping back and forth between up and down the overnight level, but it did hold back above. So I really like this failed second entry right here. Clearly, it was unable to fade. Even after these two attempts, it held one more time, pushed back in. After the fade, immediately shot back out. So basically, this reversal is failing here, and so we create this failed second entry, and we get a good bar from it. So this is a great looking trade right here. First leg up, two-legged correction, and then this is the start of that second leg up right there. So just to show. So anyway, pushes up way past that measured move right there. After this leg up here, we get this failed second entry. This was a loss right here. I got stopped out, as you can see. So this leg right here, even though it's that second leg, since it became so much bigger than the measured move, you can just view it as its own first leg. It's just a bigger picture first leg. And so you have uptrend, two-legged break, perfectly holding off the EMA. Now, I waited. I didn't enter right away. So if I had entered right above this green bar here, I actually would have got out. But it had such a bearish push down that I wanted price to just move over a bit away from this bearish move down. Even though we had a sharp reaction retesting the overnight high, this area, there was some resistance in this area. It's not like super clear, resistance like just forming, but this is where that major measured move was, where we had a perfect reversal and we're getting close to that area, so there could be some kind of resistance here. So that's why I wanted to wait on more bullish confirmation before immediately taking this, and so I waited for this next bar, and then I said, okay, we have another green bar, just more confirmation given the area that it's in, and that is what actually ended up screwing me with this trade here, because it tapped the target and then just immediately went down to my stop and I got hit. So I definitely think it looks good to look for a long in this area, but yeah, it did end up being a loss. Now I don't see anything particularly wrong with it, really. It's a decent looking failed second entry. But yeah, it probably has to do with the fact that there's some kind of resistance up here. Like I said, it's not like there's clear swings where it's perfectly, you can draw a trend line off of it and it matches up, but it got very bearish once it reached that measured move, so that's likely why it wasn't able to go much further and it kind of just stayed in that area. So anyway, stopped out on that, not a big deal. We continue on up here. Notice that after this push lower, we get one last push up. So now this uptrend has a break and a push up to a new high, and then price gets a sharp reversal. Start pushing back down. This would be a great place to get a failed second entry. If we push below here, a couple legs back, great place for a reversal pattern, but it just doesn't happen. We push all the way back down to the overnight high. Then we get the break. So, excuse me. So downtrend, break, we can expect price to attempt a new low, but we have to consider this overnight high level. Price reacts very well to it, very strongly to it, and so there's a chance that it might not make a new low. But you can still, if you get a couple legs back and it has a clear hold, and you get a push below the EMA and you have room, then you can still get a short even above the overnight high. But it just doesn't set anything up here. So we continue on lower here. We get a clear second leg down, two-legged move right here. This is the measured move right here, and price pushes on through that level. Now, the measured move levels are not always going to hold perfectly, but sometimes what will happen is price will push through, and then you'll get a two-legged retest on the underside of the measured move, and then you can look for a short. In this case here, that's not what happened. It actually ended up pushing back above and then holding above. Not ideal for taking a short. If we had pushed even lower and then got 2 clear legs back, perfectly retesting this measured move level, then we can look to continue short straight from there. But it just doesn't set up well. You can kind of see this, first leg up, we get a clear hold above, pushing back above, really not ideal. Even when you push lower here, you're already entering into the low at that point, and it's not like you have a clear 2-legged retest. That's just one leg and then one small attempt at a new high. So nothing to take a short for there. We continue on lower here. Now we have this larger leg on a bigger picture, and then this is our break. So downtrend, break, and then price starts to push down to a new low. Now this right here is a great area for a failed second entry. Just stemming from here, we could get a push down, couple legs back, making a failed second entry from here. That would be great for a short, considering we have this measured move in play. And also, if we got a push lower and 2 legs up, that would include the 2 attempts to play out for this little uptrend right here. So uptrend, break, 2 attempts at a new high would be confluent with the reversal pattern, so it would be a great area for a short. It doesn't give us a setup here. And I want to address this because I know someone might ask about it. If you count to the tick, you have right here, first entry long, second entry long, failure. Now, I see that to the tick, you have a failed second entry, but that is just too small picture for the way that I trade. You have, after this uptrend, you get this tiny break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher, and then it plummets, and likely it did still fully set up that failed second entry before reversing on down, but with the targets I like to go for, minimum 1-to-1, this is just too small picture. I would need to see a clearer break with 2 clear legs up, not just counting to the tick. I see how it worked here very well, very bearish, but it doesn't mean it's going to work out like that next time. So anyway, we continue on lower here. We start correcting back up. We get this first entry short right off the EMA, but it's just a first entry, not a second entry, so we cannot take that. Get this lower high right here, which it's a lower high, but also to the count, it is still a second entry, because you have your leg up here, clear break, and then it starts to make that second leg up, but it just doesn't get very far. It doesn't even reach the EMA again, so no way to take that safely there. You don't want to take anything that's not off the EMA or not off of a level pushing back to the EMA. And so anyway, we push on lower here. Here you can see we get another second entry, but we don't get a good signal bar. By the time we get a good bar, it's pushing already back into the low right there where it just made this double bottom, so that's not ideal to enter short into. And so anyway, we continue on lower here. We reach this measured move, so now this measured move is met. And as soon as that measured move is met, it pushes through a little tiny bit, basically just bounces right off of it because it has such a strong reaction right after it gets reached. And so I want to talk about this short right here. This is not a short that I liked. So even though this uptrend has played out with a break and a new high, you just met a major measured move with a very bullish reaction to it. And even though it's closing back below, it is still making higher lows and higher highs. Not ideal for a short right after a major measured move was met. I would want to see another set, like you see how you have after this uptrend gets its break, you have a couple attempts higher there. I would want to see another bigger picture attempt at a new high. So for instance, something like this, uptrend, break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher. Doesn't necessarily have to be fully measured, but at least something that reaches the trend line here and then pushes below. That way it's just safer, because again, even though it makes a new high right here after that first leg, it could still make a second leg up, especially given what it just pushed off of, a major measured move / overshoot. It overshoots lead to breaks. It's just not the safest short right here, so this is not something that I was willing to take. So anyway, we continue on lower here. We go into this downtrend here. There's no good shorts on the way down, doesn't even reach the EMA. And now we have downtrend, break, and we can expect price to attempt a new low. Now, we're at the overnight low right here. Price is clearly having some bullish reaction to it after it reaches it, and so it could struggle to make a new low here. And we could also just push on up and make a reversal pattern. Even though we're in this downtrend right here, we can get a reversal pattern, and we can take a long as you have room. You don't want to enter directly into the trend line here, but as long as you have room, you can look to enter a long. And so that's going to do it for the ES. I'm going to hop over to the NQ now. So here we are on the NQ. Not as exciting on the NQ today. Lately, it's been the other way around. It's been better on the NQ, not as good on the ES lately, but today it's the opposite. So again, I started trading at the same time at 8, so that's this area right here just before we broke out. We have this uptrend, break, and then push up to a new high, and it attempts to reverse after making that new high, but it doesn't succeed. It ends up just pushing on higher and then breaking out of the overnight high. Now, like I mentioned on the ES part, when you break out of the overnight high, you want to see 2 attempts to fade before buying the breakout. Now, on the ES, I'm going to hop back to that really quick. We did get those 2 attempts, and we got a good long from it. But in this case here, on the NQ, we just get 1 attempt to fade. It retests the overnight low. It's also off this trend line right here, but it's just 1 leg, so it's not a valid trade. It's just a first entry. So nothing there for me. We continue on up. We have this uptrend, break. Now, this up measured move is still in play right here. So we have to consider that these act as magnets right here. And so we still have this uptrend, break. We can expect price to attempt a new high. And considering that measured move is still in play, that's really good for a long. But we don't get a very clear break. It just barely breaks and then immediately starts pushing up to a new high. It gets very choppy. It's very sideways. I would want to see a clear push out, another push up, and then a second leg down, because then it could be just like a retest of the overnight high. So a 2-legged break from the uptrend retesting could offer us a great long down here, but instead it just immediately starts pushing up and getting sideways. It just doesn't give us a good long here. So anyway, we push on up. It's kind of going into this little range right here, as you can see, and then it breaks out, fades back in. There's no clear short there. It just pushes on out, pushes back in, and then as more time goes on, obviously this range got extended, and so when we push down here, we have 1 very clear, after making that new high, we have 1 clear attempt to fade, and then when we push back up here, we make this double top. We're clearly going into this range right here. We can expect a second leg down. Now notice how I have this measured move drawn stemming from here. That's because we ended up making this lower low, or lower high, but at first we have this attempt to fade after that new high, and then this is the stem of our second attempt right here. Bearish reaction, pushing below the EMA. We can expect another attempt to fade. It's also fading this range down here, and it's just, there's very clear resistance right here. So this is a great looking trade. It's a good looking short. We push down on that second leg, but then after we reach down here and we start pushing back up, we don't reach the same high, and then we have a sharper push out that actually leaves this range right here and fades back in. And that's why I changed the arrows to here, because sometimes you'll get a 2-legged move that creates a double top, but then from that second swing in the double top, then you'll have a 2-legged move stemming from there. So sometimes that'll happen. I don't want that to confuse anyone, because I understand that can sound confusing, but oftentimes, I'll just say it again, you have a 2-legged move that creates a double top, and very often you'll get a second leg stemming after that double top, and basically it ends up counting as a reset right here, a count reset. And so anyway, we continue on lower here. I don't like anything in here. It just ends up getting very choppy, and you need to have your stop all the way up here, and you only get a good bar right here when it closes below the EMA and finally gets out of this sideways action. But considering it's completely sideways right here, I would not want to have my stop all the way above those. After finally pushing below, I would have just wanted to see a clear reaction after these 2 legs up there, which that was pretty thin for 2 legs up, but it's still valid. And if we get a good reaction, we could have just gotten like a push below, gotten a good lower high, but I just don't like how choppy it got. So anyway, we push on lower here, we fade back into the overnight low, or excuse me, the overnight high, and we push out the lows of this range right here, and then we immediately, price starts attempting to push back out. It does not succeed. It ends up having a new low here, so now we have this downtrend, break, new low, and then after that new low, price immediately attempts to reverse. Now, I want to compare this area to the same area on the ES. So notice how you have first entry short, second entry short, failure. So it's a reversal pattern, very similar to what we had on the ES. So we have first entry short, second entry short, failure. Now, here on the NQ, it wasn't getting back above the overnight high. I mean, it's still barely closed above there, but that's literally barely. Here, it was just a little bit more clear. We kept pushing above it more than on this one. It had more resistance right here. Now, it was in the same area, and very oftentimes on these markets, they'll do the same thing. They'll move in the same area. But sometimes they don't. Like I've seen them, diverge from each other. I've seen them, and sometimes they look very similar to each other all day. But it really only looked perfect on here to me. I mean, it's not. It's kind of sideways looking, but it's not like a cookie cutter trade here. But it's still totally valid. Here, it didn't look as good just because it's having a little bit more resistance and trouble getting back in. So I thought it was best to avoid it on here. Now, it does end up taking off just like it does on the ES, but I generally don't like to trade one market based off of the other. So that's why I only entered it on the ES here. So anyway, we push on up here. Now on the NQ, this whole area above the overnight high was a lot more range like. So on the ES here, as you know, as I already showed, it just wasn't as rangy. It's kind of sideways, but it more just has these big legs pushing down, and then there's more separation between the legs. But then here on the NQ, everything is more tight, and it's clearly going into this range right here. And so, basically, you can expect price to attempt to fade back in here, and it wasn't able to get back above, even considering that. So, really just not perfect. Now we push on up here. Now, if we, get a good push and then a couple legs back, like say, we have this measured move here. If we push above and then get a couple legs back and then end up, closing back above after the two legs back, then we could get a long, so long as we have room. But, we just don't get that. It ends up going straight up to the highs. Now, this right here, this isn't, perfect, this level right here. I dragged it to there after we got this because just to show the resistance right there. But, it didn't quite reach the double top at the very high of today. Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to move that. But we still got up here, clearly finding resistance. We're continuing this range right here. We have uptrend, two-legged break, and then push to a new high. I don't like going long right there because, again, we just pushed off of this level, which is clearly tons of resistance. So even though we got this bullish bar, it's still pushed below the EMA. It's getting sideways. I would not bet on going long there, even if you could get in with a limit order and have room to the highs. It's definitely not for me. So anyway, we push on up, make this little double top right here. It's not very good. It gets choppy again right here, and then we push on lower. I have this area circled because I think it's good to look for a short here. If you push lower, you can get a good lower high, but it really just doesn't set up very well. So that's why I didn't take anything in this area. So also this right here on the ES, I did take the, this is the same area on the ES where I took the failed second entry. So I'm going to hop back to the ES really quick. Notice this is where I took that long. It did get stopped out right there, but I didn't like it at all on here because of how clear the resistance was. Over here, the resistance wasn't as clear, like I was mentioning, like, there was clearly some kind of resistance, but it wasn't like super consistent off of it. But here on the NQ, it's very clear range highs right here. I did not want to enter into that. So anyway, we push on lower here. We get this sharp leg down, break. You can see there's a two-legged break from that move, and then we have a second leg down. No good short. It just pushes back. It's just chopping between the overnight high. It just fades back in, pushes back out, makes a higher low, holding above, and then you get this bearish bar, but it still didn't close back below. It's really just not. It's just choppy. It's just not clear. Price doesn't know what it's doing at this point, and so you just want to wait for price to fade back in and make a couple legs back. If we had pushed lower here and got a couple legs back, making a failed second entry from here, that could offer us a great short considering we're fading and we have this down measured move in play. But it ends up just going straight down, reaching the measured move, pushing through, and then just like on the ES in the same area, we don't get two clear legs retesting this measured move level. It ends up just pushing back above, so we end up not getting a clear entry here. And so anyway, we push on lower here. We get this bigger leg. As price action forms, the bigger picture structures form as time goes on. So anyway, we push on lower here. We get this break. So now we have downtrend, break. Price starts pushing to a new low. This is a great area to get a failed second entry. A reversal pattern, well, in this case, not exactly a reversal pattern. failed second entries are reversal patterns, but not all failed second entries are reversal patterns. So if we got a failed second entry here, it's not necessarily a reversal because we're just continuing with the fade, but it would be a reversal from this little uptrend right here. So little downtrend, 2 legs back, that would give us the 2 attempts at a new high for this uptrend right here, as well as being a failed second entry. So that could give us a good short. It just doesn't occur. We continue on lower here. We get this first entry right there. It's just a first entry. Now right here we get this second entry, but obviously it's pretty choppy. We started, we started getting choppy right from that previous swing. So we had that swing there, and then it just bounced in that area, and then it bounced in that area again. So I didn't really want to enter right into this low, but it does end up pushing on lower here. It's just not a perfect looking trade. So anyway, we push on lower here. We have these 2 legs down at this point. The measured move is not quite met yet, and we start getting this attempt to reverse. Now, we push on up, very sharp spike above the EMA. We immediately push back below the EMA, back above, and then back below, and then back above again. And so we have the uptrend played out at this point, and this measured move is still in play. At this point, by the way, on the ES, the measured move was met, if you don't remember. So it was already met, and then we talked about how, considering it was off of this measured move level, I don't want to go short right here. Now, in this case here, the measured move is still in play, or actually, there it is, the NQ. Here, the measured move is still in play. The uptrend is played out at this point, and so if you can get a good looking short here, then I think that's great, because again, you still have your measured move in play. I didn't like here how it basically closed above. It barely closed below. It looks like it's borderline. You can't really tell. But the uptrend is played out at that point. It held off of the EMA continually, so I didn't like going short right there. But if we had pushed below, gotten a good lower high, then yeah, we could have absolutely gotten a short there. It just didn't set up perfectly, especially given, even though the measured move isn't met, it still had a sharp reaction to it. And also, it didn't overshoot on this downtrend here, but we still had a very sharp reaction, so I would want to see something clearly hold below. Even though it's played out, it just wasn't perfect. So anyway, we continue on lower here, and we push on through that measured move. We go into this downtrend, and then we have a break. So downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower, and we have successfully made a new low at this point. And so we could push on in, we get a reversal pattern. You can get one with room to this trend line right here. And so, we could get along soon, but what could also happen is it pushes on out, and if it breaches this trend line, you can get a very big picture reversal pattern. So a large push up, 2 big legs down. That would include the 2 attempts at a new low for this downtrend break. We could get something like that. I'll just draw it out for a visual here. So we could get something like this. So downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower, and then failure. Or it could also have bigger legs that reach the overnight low. So there's all sorts of possibilities of what could happen. But we are off of the overnight low right now. Very big chance of getting a reversal. And sometimes what'll happen is you won't get a big picture reversal, but it'll break, it'll push on out, break, and then you get a 2-legged correction. And then stemming from the 2-legged correction, after the push up, 2 legs down, then you push into a smaller failed second entry from here. And then you have this up measured move in play, and so you can get a smaller failed second entry, say right here, with this up measured move in play. So that's what I would like to look for after pushing off of an overnight level. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I hope it helped out in some way, and thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time.